Marcus Thompson stood before the towering glass facade of Meridian Elite, his father's flagship luxury store in the heart of Manhattan. His reflection stared back at him, worn jeans, a navy hoodie pulled low over his face, and weathered sneakers replacing his usual tailored suits. In his hands, he clutched a plain cardboard box marked samples. To any passerby, he looked like just another delivery driver navigating the bustling streets of New York's fashion district. But Marcus wasn't just any delivery driver. As the son of Alexander Thompson, founder and CEO of the billion-dollar Meridian Elite empire, he had grown up watching his father build this luxury brand from nothing. Alexander had started as a delivery driver himself, working countless hours to save enough money to open his first small boutique. Now, 25 years later, Meridian Elite stood as a testament to the American dream, with over 50 stores nationwide. "Are you sure about this, Marcus?" His father's words from their heated discussion that morning echoed in his mind. "There are other ways to evaluate our staff." But Marcus knew differently. The complaints had been piling up, whispers of discrimination, of certain employees treating delivery personnel and customers they deemed unworthy with contempt. He had seen the negative reviews, the social media posts, the quiet resignations. Something had to be done. "Trust me, Dad," Marcus had replied, his determination evident in his voice. Sometimes the only way to see the truth is to become invisible to those who think they're above others. Alexander had finally relented, understanding his son's passion for protecting the inclusive values they'd built their company on. Now, as Marcus pushed through the heavy glass doors of their flagship store, his heart raced not with nerves, but with purpose. The familiar scent of leather and luxury perfumes filled the air, and the soft, ambient lighting illuminated the carefully curated displays of high-end merchandise. This store, their crown jewel, represented everything they stood for, or at least, everything they were supposed to stand for. Two sales associates stood behind the gleaming counter. Jessica Palmer, her perfectly manicured nails tapping away at her phone, barely glanced up as Marcus entered. Beside her, Nathan Brooks adjusted his designer tie, his expression morphing into one of barely concealed disdain. "Wrong door," Nathan called out, his voice carrying across the polished marble floors. "Deliveries go through the back entrance." Jessica's laugh cut through the air like crystal breaking. "This isn't exactly your kind of store, honey. The outlet mall is about 20 blocks south." Marcus felt his jaw tighten, but kept his expression neutral. He had expected some resistance, but the overt hostility in their voices, the casual cruelty of their dismissal, it was worse than he'd imagined. A few customers nearby shifted uncomfortably, some averting their eyes while others watched the scene unfold with morbid curiosity. "I was instructed to deliver these samples directly to the store manager," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the anger building inside him. He thought of his father's words about dignity, about treating every person with respect regardless of their position. How far they had strayed from that founding principle. Nathan's smirk widened as he exchanged a knowing look with Jessica. "Listen, buddy," he drawled, leaning forward on the counter. "We don't typically deal with your type here. Just leave the box and go back to whatever street corner you came from." Marcus caught his reflection in one of the store's many mirrors. His father's son, standing there in deliberately humble clothing, experiencing firsthand the ugly truth about how some of their employees treated those they considered beneath them. The irony wasn't lost on him. These were the same employees who smiled and fawned over him when he wore his custom suits and designer watches. From across the store, Emily Richardson, the assistant manager, suddenly froze in her tracks. Her eyes widened with recognition, and Marcus saw the color drain from her face. She hurried over, her heels clicking rapidly against the marble floor. "Mr. Thompson," she whispered urgently, glancing nervously at Nathan and Jessica. "What are you doing here?" Marcus gave her a slight smile, the only acknowledgement of his true identity. "I'm observing, Emily," he said quietly. "Please, continue with your duties. I need to see this through." Emily's face flushed as she looked back at her colleagues, who remained oblivious to the true identity of the man they were mocking. She nodded slightly, understanding the gravity of the situation, and stepped back, though she remained within earshot. Nathan, interpreting Emily's approach as backup, became even bolder. "Look," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I don't know who told you to come to the front, but we don't accept deliveries here. This is a luxury establishment. There are protocols." Marcus stepped closer to the counter, placing the box down carefully. The store had grown quieter, other customers and staff now watching the scene unfold. This moment, he realized, wasn't just about him or even about Nathan and Jessica. It was about every person who had ever been judged, dismissed, or disrespected based on appearances. It was about the very soul of the company his father had built from the ground up. Don't forget to subscribe to Real Life Stories New for more powerful narratives that challenge our perspectives and remind us of our shared humanity. What happens next when Marcus finally reveals his true identity? How will Nathan and Jessica face the consequences of their actions? The tension in Meridian Elite's flagship store had reached a breaking point. Marcus Thompson maintained his composed exterior, though inside, a storm was brewing. The box of samples sat between him and the sneering sales associates like a battle line drawn in the pristine marble floor. Behind him, he could hear the whispers of customers, their shopping forgotten as they watched the drama unfold. "I said," Nathan Brooks repeated, his voice rising with irritation. "Deliveries go through the back. Are you having trouble understanding simple English?" He adjusted his designer tie again, a nervous habit that betrayed his growing discomfort with Marcus's quiet defiance. Jessica Palmer let out an exaggerated sigh, finally putting her phone down. "Nathan, don't waste your time. He's clearly not going to get it." She turned to Marcus, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Let me make this really simple for you. This is Meridian Elite. We sell handbags that cost more than you probably make in a month. The back door is where people like you belong." Emily Richardson, the assistant manager, watched from nearby. Her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had turned white. She knew she was witnessing something momentous, but years of working in luxury retail had taught her the value of timing. This was Marcus's show, and he would choose when to bring down the curtain. A well-dressed woman in her 50s, carrying a Meridian Elite shopping bag, stopped near Marcus. "Excuse me," she said, addressing Nathan and Jessica, "but I find your behavior absolutely disgraceful." She turned to Marcus with a kind smile. "Young man, I've been shopping here for 15 years, and I've never been so disappointed in my life." Nathan's smirk faltered slightly. "Ma'am, I assure you we have protocols for deliveries " "Protocols?" the woman interrupted. "Is rudeness a protocol? Is cruelty company policy?" She placed her shopping bag on the counter. "I'd like to return everything I just purchased. I'll be taking my business elsewhere." Jessica scrambled to recover the situation. "Ma'am, please, there's no need for that. We're simply maintaining the exclusive atmosphere our clients expect." Marcus watched this exchange with interest. This unexpected ally had just provided the perfect opening for the next phase of his plan. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Not the basic model they'd assumed he carried, but the latest flagship device with the custom Meridian Elite case that was available exclusively to top executives. "Exclusive atmosphere," Marcus repeated softly, his voice carrying across the now silent store. "Tell me, Ms. Palmer, what exactly makes an atmosphere exclusive? Is it the price of the merchandise? The marble floors? Or is it the way you treat human beings as if they're beneath you?" Jessica's face flickered with uncertainty at his use of her last name. Nathan stepped forward, attempting to regain control of the situation. "Listen here, No, Mr. Brooks." Marcus cut him off, his voice taking on an edge of authority that made Nathan step back instinctively. "You've done enough talking. For the past 20 minutes, I've watched you and Ms. Palmer demonstrate everything that my father and I have fought against in this industry." The color drained from both their faces as realization began to dawn. Emily Richardson moved closer, ready to step in if needed. The woman with the shopping bag gasped softly, understanding washing over her face. "Your father," Jessica whispered, her perfectly manicured hands beginning to tremble. Marcus finally removed his hood, standing to his full height. Without the slouched posture he'd adopted for his role, he cut an imposing figure. Alexander Thompson is my father, the man who started this company as a delivery driver himself. The man who built Meridian Elite on the fundamental belief that luxury isn't about exclusion. It's about excellence. Excellence in our products, in our service, and most importantly, in how we treat every single person who walks through these doors. Subscribe to Real Life Stories New for more powerful stories that remind us of the importance of human dignity and respect. Nathan's face had turned an alarming shade of pale. Mr. Thompson, we didn't what, Mr. Brooks? Didn't recognize me? That's precisely the point. Marcus's voice remained steady, but carried throughout the store. You saw what you wanted to see, someone you deemed unworthy of basic human respect. You saw a delivery driver and decided they didn't deserve the same dignity you'd show to someone wearing a designer suit. Emily stepped forward now, her voice firm. Nathan, Jessica, please go to the back office. We'll need to have a discussion about your continued employment with Meridian Elite. But Marcus held up his hand. Not yet, Emily. He turned to address the gathering crowd of customers and employees. I want everyone here to witness this moment, not because I take pleasure in these individuals' discomfort, but because this is a teaching moment for all of us. He picked up the box of samples, opening it to reveal the latest collection of premium leather goods. These samples represent millions in potential revenue. Designs that took months to perfect. And you decided the person delivering them wasn't worthy of basic respect. Jessica began to cry, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Please, Mr. Thompson, we didn't mean dash. Every person who walks through these doors has a story. Marcus continued, his voice softening slightly. That delivery driver might be working 3 jobs to put themselves through college. They might be an entrepreneur building their own dream. They might even be the son of a CEO. He paused, letting his words sink in. Or they might simply be someone doing their job with dignity and deserving of basic human respect. The woman who had tried to return her purchases stepped forward again. Mr. Thompson, if you don't mind my saying, your father must be very proud of you right now. As if on cue, the store's doors opened, and Alexander Thompson himself walked in, his presence commanding immediate attention. The tall, distinguished man surveyed the scene before him, his eyes meeting his son's with a mix of pride and sadness. What happens when Alexander Thompson addresses his employees? How will this moment transform Meridian Elite? And what consequences await Nathan and Jessica? Let me know in the comment box. Alexander Thompson's footsteps echoed across the marble floor of Meridian Elite as he approached the scene before him. The store had fallen into complete silence, the kind of hushed anticipation that comes before a storm. His gray eyes, weathered by years of building his empire from nothing, took in every detail, his son Marcus standing tall despite his deliberately humble attire, the trembling sales associates, and the gathered crowd of customers and employees. When Marcus came to me with this idea, Alexander began, his deep voice carrying the weight of authority earned through decades of leadership. I was hesitant. We have mystery shoppers, I told him. We have customer feedback systems. He paused, moving to stand beside his son. But Marcus insisted that to truly understand what was happening in our stores, we needed to see how our employees treat those they think have no power. Subscribe to Real Life Stories New for more inspiring stories that challenge our perspectives and touch our hearts. Nathan Brooks had begun to sweat visibly, his designer tie now crooked. Jessica Palmer couldn't meet anyone's eyes, her earlier confidence shattered. Emily Richardson stood nearby, her clipboard clutched to her chest, watching as 25 years of Meridian Elite's history converged in this moment. You know, Alexander continued, removing his suit jacket and draping it over a nearby display case. 30 years ago, I was working as a delivery driver in this very neighborhood. He rolled up his sleeves, revealing forearms marked with old scars, battle wounds from years of manual labor. I would make deliveries to luxury stores just like this one. And do you know what I noticed? The question hung in the air, but no one dared to answer. Alexander's voice took on an edge of controlled anger. I noticed that the way someone treated a delivery driver told you everything you needed to know about their character. Everything. He turned to address the gathered crowd directly. When I founded Meridian Elite, I made a promise to myself. This company would be different. We wouldn't just sell luxury goods. We would redefine what luxury means. True luxury isn't about excluding people. It's not about making others feel small to make yourself feel big. True luxury is about excellence, yes, but also about dignity. About treating every human being with the respect they deserve. Marcus stepped forward, placing the box of samples on a nearby counter. That's why I had to do this, Dad. Because somewhere along the way, some of our employees forgot that fundamental truth. Alexander nodded, pride evident in his eyes as he looked at his son. Then he turned to Nathan and Jessica, who seemed to be trying to disappear into the floor. Mr. Brooks, Ms. Palmer, would you like to explain your actions today? Nathan cleared his throat, his voice barely above a whisper. Sir, we were just trying to maintain the store's standards. Standards. Alexander's voice cracked like thunder. Let me tell you about standards. When I was making deliveries, I once had a flat tire in the rain. I was soaked, covered in mud, and running late. I walked into a luxury store looking worse than my son does now. The store manager not only welcomed me in but gave me a towel, offered me coffee, and helped me bring in my deliveries. That manager taught me something crucial about standards. They're not about how we treat people who can help us. They're about how we treat everyone. Jessica began to speak, but Alexander held up his hand. Save your explanations. Emily, please escort Mr. Brooks and Ms. Palmer to HR. Their employment with Meridian Elite is terminated, effective immediately. As Emily led the former employees away, Alexander addressed the remaining staff. This moment will mark a change in our company. Starting tomorrow, every Meridian Elite employee will undergo extensive retraining on our core values. We're also launching a new initiative, the Dignity First program. He turned to his son, gesturing for him to explain. Marcus stepped forward, his voice clear and passionate. The Dignity First program will have three main components. First, we're establishing a scholarship fund for delivery workers and service industry professionals who want to pursue careers in fashion and retail. Second, we're implementing a zero-tolerance policy for discriminatory behavior, with clear reporting channels for both employees and customers. And third, we're partnering with local community organizations to provide job training and mentorship opportunities. The woman who had tried to return her purchases wiped tears from her eyes. This is extraordinary, she said. You're not just addressing a problem, you're creating real change. Alexander smiled warmly at her. Change begins with accountability. Today we held ourselves accountable. Tomorrow we start building a better future. He paused, looking around at the faces before him. Every person who walks through these doors, whether they're spending thousands or just looking around, whether they're making a delivery or making a purchase, deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. That's not just our policy. It's our promise. Subscribe to Real Life Stories New and join us in sharing stories that remind us of our shared humanity and the importance of treating everyone with dignity. In the days that followed, Meridian Elite's story went viral. News outlets praised the company's swift action and commitment to change. The Dignity First program became a model for other luxury retailers, and applications for the scholarship fund poured in from across the country. Marcus continued his undercover visits to other Meridian Elite locations, ensuring their message of respect and dignity reached every corner of the company. Alexander proudly watched as his son took the lessons he'd learned as a delivery driver and transformed them into a movement for positive change in the luxury retail industry. 1 month later, at the grand reopening of the flagship store, a special guest made an appearance. The delivery driver who had helped Alexander 30 years ago when he had a flat tire in the rain. Now retired, he stood beside Alexander and Marcus as they cut the ribbon, symbolizing a new era for Meridian Elite. Remember, Alexander said to the gathered crowd, luxury isn't about what you wear or what you can afford. It's about how you treat others. That's the true measure of class. The story of Marcus Thompson's undercover mission became legend in the retail industry, a powerful reminder that character reveals itself in how we treat those we think can't help or hurt us. It's a lesson that continues to resonate, challenging us all to examine our own behaviors and biases. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Real Life Stories New for more powerful narratives that remind us of the importance of human dignity and respect. Together, we can create a world where everyone is treated with the dignity they deserve. Remember, it's not about where you shop, it's about how you treat people along the way. Thank you for joining us for this powerful story of accountability, change, and the true meaning of dignity.